Thank you so much. I think the post-lunch session is always a bit difficult, but I'm really happy to see there are a lot of people in the hall. So that shows that the events, especially in terms of the kind of discussion that we are having, have a lot of resonance and connect with the delegates. And my colleague Smriti has already briefed about the topic in terms of what we are actually going to discuss. Storage, pump storage scenario in India eyeing a net zero economy. And this is really important given the fact that in the next decade, possibly India will be generating or possibly will be having RE capacity which will be 4 times more than what it was in the previous decade. So the kind of storage in terms of storage management, especially around the energy storage system that we have in place, and that becomes really important because in order to have a very holistic ecosystem wherein the renewable energy could play an important role, we need to have, because renewable energy is anyways an intermittent system, an intermittent form of energy. So you need to have a very high and efficient level of pump storage system as well. So for the next 45 minutes, we will be discussing about some of the opportunities and challenges that we see in this space, and as to how the state of Rajasthan, especially in this space, is supporting some of the industry that is over here. Also, we'll try to focus on as to how the technology aspect in the storage per se is maturing, and whether it is up to the level of commercialization. And then from a financing perspective, we'll try to have, can we explore a viable financing gap, especially to finance some of very important storage project. So I'll begin with Mr. Anil Dhaka. If you could, in a brief, actually let us know, especially from the state perspective, as to how the state is looking at promoting storage and storage capacity building, in terms of what kind of capacity that we have and why it is really important, because given the fact that the Rajasthan, as we earlier discussed, that already around 20% install base you have, and you want to be the number one, continue to be the number one. So obviously those ecosystem needs to be in place. So if you could add your view, sir.
As on day today, whenever we discuss about renewable energy, the main challenge or the main question that is thrown to us is about the round RTC concept. The round the clock energy, this is the main question for RE sector as such. So this challenge needs to be dealt with, and the only solution which is already in nascent stage, I won't say it has developed fully, is the storage. The storage, whether it is a battery powered storage or pump storage. So we have to slowly shift to some kind of a system where we won't be dependent upon thermal plants. Because whenever there is a discussion, the thermal plant lobby or thermal plant organization, they always challenge us by stating RE is being generated from 9 to 6, basically Rajasthan being a solar based RE state. Wind also is very intermittent. So they say as soon as it is 6 in the evening, you again are dependent upon thermal plant. You want us to ramp down and ramp up. So there's always a challenge of grid smartness, grid connectivity, flexibility. These things are being discussed for last few years, because all of a sudden we have started pumping RE above gigawatts capacity. So the solution and which we have to look into is one of the which is the investors are interested, and now they are also approaching us, is pumped storage. So as from RRSCL perspective, I can share certain things with you. We have gone for a study in Rajasthan, and we hired an agency and they have come up with the report. And around 8 pump storage, closed loop, off-stream pump storage, they have identified locations. Now the next challenge that would be facing is usually the reservoirs and all, they belong to the forest land. So forest department is involved. For water, we are dependent upon WRD, and then definitely with energy department. So until unless all three players are on board, and we have some kind of stakeholder suggestions too. So this is something we are very serious about, because we want to, if we want to be as successful as a RE state, we have to go for the RTC, and this is one of the main push from pump storage industry that they are looking into.
Mr. Khurana, I'll come to you now. And earlier during the panel discussion, we did mention about the fact that there is a lot of heterogeneity when it comes to the policy and regulatory framework for energy storage system, and otherwise also as to how the states are actually providing incentive in a different way. So primarily I would like you to focus on from a framework of a policy and regulatory framework, especially around the energy storage system, as to what should be an ideal architecture and what kind of supporting environment that the state should provide, because these are very niche, hardcore things and require a lot of investment. And if the renewable energy has to succeed in any parts of the world, these pump and pump storage has to put in place.
Thank you. Yeah. In fact, Rajasthan Electricity Regulatory Commission recently came up with a draft in which we specified RPO till 2930. In that draft itself, we have specified energy storage obligation also. That goes up to 4% in 2030. And there's a hydropower obligation also. That can also be measured from PSP project. So that way PSP project have two-pronged benefit. They'll be counted towards your HPO as well as toward your ESO. So the HPO is right now is 0.35%. It will go up to 2.82% of total consumption. And ESO will be 1.5% in 24-25, and thereafter it will go up to 4%. That is basically, that will be the key driver for the this PSP industry as well as battery storage systems. Because until unless we mandate some obligation on the DISCOMs, or they'll not be prompted to pay for that, or their higher cost may be factored into ARR. So that way we are providing support. And apart from this, for the last control period, we made regulations in which we have gave 75% transmission charge exemption to project with storage systems. So we'll be coming up with new draft regulations very soon for the next control period. This can also be considered. Yeah.
No, you are absolutely right. And if you look at the draft energy storage obligation policy, which central government actually launched in July last year, and that also talk about some of the things that you have mentioned. Now I'll move to Mr. Upadhyay, Secretary Environment Department of Government from Rajasthan. Sir, your role become important because of the fact that we keep on talking about energy, and there are different types of energy available, and each one of them have some level of impact on our environment. And given the fact that the India has committed to the sustainable development, we are looking from a perspective of net zero. There is SDG goals that we have to meet in, and there actually the environment, the forest, and those aspects become very, very important. Would you like to share your views, especially in the state of Rajasthan, as to how you are balancing both the requirement of, let's say, the storage and capacity building within the RE space, and also how we can actually do it in a more environment friendly, and it should not be a hindrance to the industry in terms of growth?
Thank you very much. My basic concerns are two. The number one is that the hydropower, the pump storage that we are talking about from the reservoirs, the hydropower projects in Rajasthan, they are, I think, only two. And that too in Baswada, Mahi, and they are seasonal as well, and I don't think there is an issue with the forest in that particular reservoir. As far as the other concern is that the number, because I think we were discussing this on a pan-India basis. If we are creating more and more hydropower stations, we have the capital cost and the environmental cost as well. You are looking at the loss of habitats, loss of species, and the loss of land as well. We have the mitigation measures in place for that, alternate lands, alternate plantations, alternate things. We are giving all that to everyone. One more issue that I would like to definitely speak about is that we are, in Rajasthan especially, we are having a lot of solar panels. Solar farming is going on at a very, solar and wind I would say. In fact, we think that the desert doesn't have any ecology or the species diversity that we generally think about, but it's not like that. So development has to be in a manner that is sustainable for the environment as well as the development part as well. Both should be complementary to each other rather than being against each other. I was just, before coming to this conclave, I was reading that the solar panels have a life of 25 to 30 years, something like that. And still we don't have a technology which can recycle them. Even these things need to be taken very much care of. That's it. Thank you.
Right. Mr. Rambabu, I'll come to you. Sustainability is very important goal, and you would have since morning that in every debate and discussion around energy, sustainability becomes a kind of a resonance word across all the speakers, and we have been noticing this. When it comes to the energy storage system, ESS, fundamentally we are looking at to make it more sustainable, and that can only happen what kind of technology we are using, what kind of funding that we are actually able to make to the project, and also the kind of impact that it has on our environment. And many a times these are emerging areas. Many a times we do not have the kind of visibility that we need in order to take a proper decision. Could you share, based on your organization experience, given the fact that you work across the country with multiple partners, the trajectory that you look into it when it comes to the sustainability perspective, especially for a very hardcore project like storage and pump generation and all?
Yeah, thank you. Firstly, to begin with the net zero, which is the object here, we are very clear that the electricity constitutes a very small part of energy. And energy also constitutes a part of the human activity that causes the GHG emissions. So actually, targeting net zero would mean to us, first of all, target the carbon-free energy, carbon-free electricity. Then from the carbon-free electricity, create green fuels, zero carbon fuels. And from zero carbon fuels and etc., go towards the zero carbon materials. Ultimately, when we have a net zero, you need to have a zero carbon steel. You need to have zero carbon aluminum, etc., zero carbon chemicals, zero carbon drugs, etc. Okay. So I think net zero is a much longer goal, and the goal has to be approached very strategically. I think India and the globe is trying to approach very, very strategically and in a very accelerated way. Another point I want to emphasize here is that this is one goal that cannot be postponed, because the carbon or a greenhouse gases are a stock problem and it's not a flow problem. So what I meant by saying is that if you don't act up to 2030, don't act up to 2040, and you want to act only at 2050, you cause much more damage than acting linearly and accelerating it today, right? So we look at it, if you want to have a carbon-free energy in India, India unfortunately has the least flexible electricity system. What I meant by saying is that you have a significant amount of coal and significant amount of renewables. So that actually puts us in a situation where we have the least flexible energy. Whereas Europe has a lot of gas, so that makes their electricity system much more flexible. So since we have the least flexible electricity system, we have a challenge actually. We have a total capacity of electricity generation is 400 gigawatt approximately, and our peak is less than 200 gigawatt. To address the 200 gigawatt peak, we have established a 400 gigawatt of the generation capacity. Due to this, our cost of electricity generation is one of the highest amongst the globe. And due to that, our manufacturing is also less competitive. If you want to sort out this problem, only solution by which you can make both renewables to grow and cost effectively, and also coal, some coal to survive cost effectively, only way that you can solve that problem, that puzzle, is by storage. That I don't think any, okay. And India is one typical country which has the best of the national grid. One grid, one nation. One full last decade, India has built one of the best grids or more best integrated grids in the world. So since we have that sort of a best integrated grid and we want storage, we have an opportunity here to build grid scale storage rather than significant amount of large decentralized storages. And our storage also has to be extremely flexible. Hence our storage, when we think about it, it cannot be mixed with any other objective but to store. There is a supply, there is a demand, and the storage manages that supply and demand. It has to be extremely flexible. Okay? So to that extent, I think the Greenco has come out with a very innovative solution globally at the time when pumped storage was not being favored globally. We have come out about 3 years ago. We began the projects at various places and construction at Pinnapuram, and we are building it extremely flexibly. What I meant by saying is that we have multiple contracts of supply and multiple contracts of demand, and we will be able to meet that demand by doing, sometimes using the reservoir 80% of the time, upper reservoir, and some other times maybe not. So etc., etc. We can manage the demand and supply. Not that storage is common. Hence, our storage, now coming to the environmental impact part of it, our storage plants are off-stream. They are never connected to a river. They are completely off-stream. They are dedicated. They are not connected to any other irrigation project or any other project like that. So they are more like a water battery, and only loss in that water battery is the evaporation losses of the water. And of course, it requires land, but when you really compare with the similar kind of a storage system, if it is to be done by a battery system or any other long duration storage, the kind of land you will require is much more than what we require. Then the battery systems, all of you know, number one, battery manufacturing, the raw material is already monopolized. Post raw material at the end of the life, how to recycle much of the lithium ion or any other battery system, whereas this pumped storage battery system is made in India. We know the technology. We have been using this technology. It's a mature technology. It requires a little bit of innovation to make it more and more flexible. And if I make, let us say, if I install batteries at a certain investment cost, 85% of that investment cost goes outside. In a pumped storage, 85% of the investment cost, most probably, you can design it in such a way stays inside. It creates employment inside. So I think it's we believe, and it's cost effective. I can store a 1 unit of energy using pumped storage at half the cost of what I can do with the batteries, and it is grid scale. So I think it offers an excellent solution for India to decarbonize its electricity and slowly decarbonize its energy system also.
Right.
Thank you.
Mr. Khurana, I'll come to you before I go to Mr. Dhaka again. Sir mentioned very important thing, especially around the storage and some of the challenges that actually we are facing. And we do also see the storage per se, despite being very important component part of renewable energy mix, the storage technology per se, the kind of commercial deployment that we would like to see, that has not happened so far. And the innovation that could have happened, especially in the storage technology part, from pump perspective. Could you share, because you keep on actually interacting with a lot of different players in the state, what is your general assessment, especially from a storage technology perspective, and making it at a scale where it could be, enterprise level or maybe industry level deployment could happen?
Yeah, you are right. There are not many studies or many takers for the storage as of now, especially when you talk of lithium in batteries and all that. These are more or less at conceptual stage only, and the cost is still very high. As he rightly said, PSP is so far the most viable option for the storage. But Rajasthan is again yet to see that, and most of the states are in the planning stage itself. The most important thing, like we keep on interacting with lots of stakeholders, the most important thing for us to have a resource adequacy plan, all of first. First of all, we should have a resource adequacy plan and we should assess the capacity required for the storage, number one. Number two, there's a debate on, so many electrical vehicles are coming. They are all equipped with batteries. So there's debate on grid to vehicle and vehicle to grid with smart metering and smart chargers. So can that be used as a storage itself? Because that will be, distributed storage. Then again, there are lots of behind the meter solar power plants. Can they be asked to install some battery storage with their plants so that that can be used in the system? So many technological options are there, but PSP itself is an established thing over the world.
Mr. Dhaka, just adding to what Mr. Khurana was actually talking about, we do also see, because of the focus of an organization or institution on net zero, we see a lot of buying that is happening in and around carbon-free stuff. And those buying happens in a way where you do not have the visibility across what you are buying and how long it is going to work and what is the sustainability pattern, because the data points are not available. And even if it is available, it is not integrated. So you might not be aware that one of the battery in the name of EV that you are having, how long it is going to work and how it could be replaced actually, and in case if it has to be completely discarded, what is the way out? So what is really happening? You are losing a lot of money also in the name of being a carbon-free organization, and also there is a huge challenge in terms of creating a lot of nuisance for the environment. Could you share something that you might have come across, especially from a carbon-free net zero perspective in the state, from your organization perspective?
See, first and the foremost, we accept that if it comes to pump storage, we are very new to this concept. But I just want to share some figure and the enthusiasm of the investors, those who have approached us for the pump storage. We had MOUs of amounting around 50,000 crore that has been signed in the, as Minister Ma'am was telling, around 8,000 megawatt of storage capacity. So on one side, we haven't yet jumped into this field, and other side, there are investors who are so enthusiastic to join in, and definitely they are looking towards state government when we are going to finalize, because I meet often all those pump storage investors too, and so we are in touch with them, and we want to go ahead with this technology, because at the end of the day, the battery storage concept, as everyone was telling, is not very environment friendly. And we will again end up having those batteries and how to dispose of them and the carbon neutral, which you are discussing now. So pump storage is going to take place, it's going to take place at a very huge scale. There are certain deficiencies, certain negative thing about it. Somehow we have to come out with certain proposals. Technology has to take over. There are viability gap funding issues there. Then we have got a construction period of 7 to 8 years. Then as discussed by investors, you have to work in field, even if you have chosen some site for 1 to 2 years to even for DPR. So these are the issues which are acting as a hindrance for this technology. But as I have read, certain southern states are already working on these projects, and they have already come into it. Around 5,000 megawatt of capacity has been generated. So, and another trend that I would like to highlight is what we have seen in interaction with Center is Center is also pushing very hard for these kind of technologies of storage. As we all know, just few days back, the environment clearance for closed loop off-grid has been taken away. So they are also trying to understand how we can make them more and more viable. So from RRECL side, we can say we are open to all those ideas because we are at a very nascent stage. We are preparing a draft of these things, and we just want investors who are here. We just want to have those ideas so that we don't start on a wrong path, and because that's the future. Storage, whether it is a battery-based storage or pump storage, that is the future. We have to. This RE sector has to shift to if it wants to be something in future. Thank you.
Right, absolutely. Mr. Upadhyay, before I take your views, I'm taking the view of Mr. Ram Babu, especially on what I asked Mr. Khurana about the fact that we see a lot of buying happening of low carbon product. And that is happening because you have lack of data or awareness about the kind of things which is available. So when we look at the net zero in totality, completely from a holistic ecosystem perspective as an organization, how important it is to have the different points in a buying journey or maybe a procurement journey to be aware about the fact the kind of stuff you would be buying, because all of these things are still emerging. So you might not have a complete data set across you. So as to how some of integrated platform or maybe a culture of being a very sustainable or high quality item within organization could actually help plugging some of the things that we are actually looking at it, wherein you are buying items with low carbon products, and ultimately what you are doing, you are actually wasting a lot of money.
Yeah, there is definitely a lot of greenwashing, right? And but one thing is that as the net zero commitments, especially by the corporates, okay, the businesses. In fact, if you go to COP26 or COP27 and recent COPs, you find businesses being more active and committed than the governments and even more than the civil society. You see business activity much more. Okay, I interpret that, okay, being somebody who has been attending a significant number of COPs, I interpret that business has smelled some profit, some advantage in going to net zero. There is a significant amount of capital that is chasing the net zero. When actual capital chases and when it is not a show, PR stunt, I think robust measurement systems will emerge. Already people are looking at blockchain to understand the complete supply chain footprint and before I purchase. So extremely robust measurement systems have come in, etc. I think that concern that you will be possibly spending time and money. For example, Google has been advocating carbon-free energy. Okay? What is carbon-free energy? Normally what now happens is that if the industry procures renewable electricity, if it has under an open access, if it has an agreement with an industry, a renewable energy supplier to procure renewable electricity, it is counted as GHG emission of that renewable electricity is counted as zero. Google came out and said, Google, a businessman, comes out and says, no, that is not net zero. That is not carbon zero. He says,
Right.
Sorry. He says that you have a contract with a RE generator and he has supplied the electricity during the afternoon and you are drawing the electricity during the night, and that during the night whatever electricity that is being drawn is actually produced by coal, hence you are not net carbon zero. So then they brought out a carbon-free energy. In the carbon-free energy definition at this particular point of time, the time you pump in to the time you draw is only 1 hour gap. And after some time, they are planning to reduce it to 15 minutes gap. So essentially, this kind of supply and drawal will not happen unless otherwise there is storage. Right? So I think things are improving and people are...
No, I think you gave very right example of Google, because we do see organization like Google and Facebook and any hyperscaler which has huge data center and providing data center services across the world. You take an example of Schneider as well. So they have been quite heavily focusing on making their operation, especially the chiller, energies in every part, more green and more energy friendly. When it comes to the net zero in the state of the Rajasthan, sir, although our country says that we'll be meeting the goal under the COP20 commitment of us by 2070, the state of Rajasthan says that we should meet that goal by 2050. So somehow we have actually preponed it, which is really encouraging from a state perspective. Would you like to share your views, especially from an environment perspective, as to how those goals could be preponed, and what would be some of the fundamental things that the state of Rajasthan will be focusing on in order to meet the challenge and meet the goal of net zero?
What I can say is that, in fact, the government of Rajasthan is already designing policies to facilitate the investments, to facilitate the investors. And we want more and more investment to come to Rajasthan. In fact, I must tell you something, that I also happen to be the member secretary of the authority that issues environmental clearances. What used to happen earlier, when it was something say like 1.5 years getting environmental clearances, now it has come down to as low as 2 months. So you can see that every sector is working tirelessly to facilitate the investments in Rajasthan so that we can meet the desired goals before they are actually scheduled to be achieved. Thank you.
I think we have 5 minutes, so maybe I can take a 30-second last view from each one of you. So, Mr. Khurana, if you have something to add up on so far the things that we have discussed, 30 seconds to you.
He had given the example of Google. So what we are missing out in most of the debate is demand response system. We should be able to manage our demand based on our generation also. That itself work as a storage. So that can also be taken up in some other debates here.
So, Mr. Dhaka, before I come to you, since we have some minutes, maybe I can open a floor to some of the questions from audience, because since morning we have not taken any. So we'll be taking 2 questions and one directed to any one of our panelists. So please raise your hand. Yes. Can somebody help with the mic?
Our project will be operational in Andhra Pradesh by end of this year. Okay, that will be the first world's largest grid scale 1.5 gigawatt pumped storage system. And Rajasthan, I think we are waiting for the some of the clearances. Okay, the moment that is done, I think we will be through. There are, I also wanted to add, along with this question, one concern. In many states, we always heard about the environmental impact of the pumped storage system. I can tell you, as far as the carbon is concerned, the pumped storage system can save GHG emissions equivalent to 1.5 gigawatt pumped storage system of our Kurnool can save GHG emissions equivalent to 6 lakh hectares of forest land. 6 lakh hectares, we actually save 6 million tons. So 6 lakh hectares of forest land. So that is the reason why sometimes we may have to little bit give in about land and etc. etc. But carbon is not, forest is not about carbon only. Forest has diversity, forest has habitat. I take that point. Forest has water conservation, water preservation, etc.
Right. Mr. Dhaka, over to you, if you would like to add something.
The concern, which the question, the person who has asked the question was regarding their own, one of their project, I think, which is, I think last 2.5 years they are struggling with certain clearances from the government. Although very respectfully he has diverted that question, looking at the circumstances. But there are issues definitely, because as everyone was discussing, there are several departments, and when it comes for forest, the clearances to get forest clearances is very difficult. Even I would share my own example. We are suffering from a GIB issue. All of you know about that. We are struggling. We are trying to get it disposed of from Supreme Court. I think all investors sitting here are infected by that also. So these are certain issues that needs to be taken in totality, and this is a time when we should come up with certain framework where even the environmentalists or the nature lovers, as you call, even we are also fall in the same category. We have to come up with certain methods, certain mechanism where there is a timeline of deciding all those kind of approvals, and that is the genuine concern of investor, and we would definitely try to help them out as far as possible from our side.
We can take one more question. Yeah, please go ahead.
Thank you, Chairman. I'm H. Kumar from CSTV Innovation Center on Solar Promotion. मेरे दो क्वेश्चन हैं, एक राम बाबू जी से है, दूसरा है ढाका जी से. क्वेश्चन ये है कि हम क्लाइमेट चेंज की बात कर रहे हैं, नेट जीरो इकोनॉमी की बात कर रहे हैं, ग्रीन टेक कॉरिडोर की बात कर रहे हैं, लेकिन उसको मीट करने के लिए, उसको टारगेट को अचीवमेंट करने के बाद हमारे पास स्किल मैन पावर तो है ही नहीं. तो हाउ टू मेक ए स्किलिंग द इंडिया एंड एनर्जाइजिंग इंडिया, पहला इसके लिए क्या प्रोग्राम होना चाहिए राजस्थान के अंदर. सेकंड क्वेश्चन है कि स्टोरेज की बात आ रही है, हम पीवी सिस्टम की स्कीम लाए हुए हैं, कुसुम स्कीम में अपने राजस्थान को पहला स्टेट बना दिया, क्यों न एक रोड टॉप स्कीम किया जाए, सोलर स्टोरेज के हजारों किलोमीटर रोड वैसे ही वैकेंट पड़ा है, उस पर सोलर सिस्टम लगा दिए, ईवी चार्जिंग स्टेशन भी हो जाएगा और सोलर सिस्टम स्टोरेज सिस्टम और ग्रीन कॉरिडोर भी बन जाएगा. फाइनेंस की कोई प्रॉब्लम है, एडीबी है, स्टेट बैंक है, फाइनेंस है, सिडबी है, वर्ल्ड बैंक है, सो मेनी थिंग. Another question in the district level. District have a one grid, one district, one sun, one world scheme हो, जिससे कि डिमांड और सप्लाई को मैनेजमेंट के एक इनक्रेडिबल डिस्ट्रिक्ट बनाया जा सकता है, जो कि पूरे वर्ल्ड के अंदर की एक मॉडल बन जाएगा, और राजस्थान स्टेट तो ऑटोमेटिकली मॉडल बन जाएगा एनर्जी सेक्टर के अंदर.
आपने 3 सवाल नहीं, कुछ रिमार्क्स भी पूछे हैं, तो मिस्टर ढाका, इफ यू लाइक टू ऐड समथिंग टू व्हाट ही वाज आस्किंग.
मैं यही बोलना चाहूँगा कि उनकी एनर्जी को देख करके ना, राजस्थान में एवरी पर्सन इज सो मच एनर्जाइज्ड कि कुछ बड़ा होने वाला है, एंड दैट्स व्हाट ही वाज स्पीकिंग अबाउट. सो ही वाज टॉकिंग अबाउट न्यू मेथड्स, क्या कर सकते हैं हम लोग, दिन की पावर जनरेट करके दिन में इस्तेमाल कर लेना, और किस तरीके से हम लोग नेट ज़ीरो तक पहुँचेंगे. और स्किल्ड मैन पावर IITs जगह जगह खोल रहे हैं प्रधानमंत्री जी, NITs बहुत सारी हैं, इंजीनियरिंग कॉलेज बहुत सारे हैं. इनकी इस बात में डेफिनेटली थोड़ा सा दम है कि सोलर सेक्टर की जब बात आ रही है तो क्या उसके लिए अलग से कुछ हम लोगों के यहाँ पे स्ट्रीम होने चाहिए जो इंजीनियरिंग उस स्ट्रीम में करवाए. तो दीज काइंड ऑफ थिंग्स, इवन स्ट्रेंथनिंग ऑफ ITIs, time has come when as an industry, as a government sector, we have to sit and think about what we are looking forward to, क्योंकि 5 साल में पूरा स्पेक्ट्रम चेंज हो जाएगा.
Right. Mr. Ram Babu would like to add, especially on the skill development part, which is very genuine concern, and it's not only about renewable energy, this is across actually different sector. So we can take something off line also.
We believe that when we reorganized information in the last 4 or 5 decades, India took some level of advantage and created wealth out of it. And the world is going to reorganize their energy and materials in the next 3 decades. We see it's a very large opportunity, at least 10 times larger than the information opportunity for India to create skills and knowledge and provide it to the world. And with that view, and that is about energy transition. It is not about RE, it is overall energy transition, skills for energy transition. So we at IIT Hyderabad, with the Ministry of Education, we have opened a Greenco School of Sustainability and Climate Change, and we are starting an MTech Sustainable Engineering and BTech minor in IIT in Sustainable Engineering. If this experiment succeeds, AICTE promised us
Right.
and NCEVET promised us to take it forward to other engineering colleges, ITIs, polytechnics, and also skilling.
Right.
That nine levels of skilling which the
Right.
NCEVET is
Right.
planning.
Right.
Thank you.
Sir, over to you, last word to you, because we have completely exhausted our time and maybe we are crossing 5 minutes more.
Hello.
So-
Hello.
Sir, if you have something to ask on the environment, please ask, otherwise we'll take it offline, sir.
I'm asking about RE with the current trends of the technology.
Sorry, we didn't.
Hello,
Yes,
I am
sir.
one of the scientists.
Right, sir.
You are talking about renewable energy, and I have attended few sessions in Delhi also. That very good sessions here as well as in Delhi. In how you are planning for the future development of the renewable energy, and what type of what strategy that you are going to follow for this, and how you can incorporate the current trends of the technology like as virtual reality, augmented reality, nanotechnology, and the emerging technology that is a metaverse. Mr. Dhaka, please highlight on this point.
So I think there is 2 points, especially role of next generation technology like AI and ML in order to augment the renewable energy part, and some of the things since morning we have been discussing in terms of the strategy, what the state is doing. So maybe on technology part, AI and ML, how actually it could do, you can. Absolutely, let him reply, sir. Let him reply.
See, whatever the gentleman was raising was regarding the what is the strategy for all those technology things and all. As per my limited experience, I can just share with you the foundation, the way forward has already been laid by Honorable Prime Minister Saab with the 500 gigawatt and Panchamrit, as we say. Whatever meetings we attend from here, almost all ministries, whether it is Ministry of Technology, Ministry of Shipping, Transport, Road, all of them have been aligned. And they have been briefed regarding these issues, and all of them are working in tandem. And hopefully we will reach this target, and something good will come out of it, because best brain of country is already working on it.
Well, thank you so much for being such a wonderful. No, sir, we cannot take. No. We have next panel to do. We can take it offline, sir. I'm not going to permit you. No, sir, I'm sorry. I'm not going to permit you. Sir, no, you can't ask. So thank you so much for being such a wonderful panelist. We have completely exhausted time, and I think you all spoke quite well, especially from the pump and storage perspective as to how, what kind of work that the state is doing, some of the challenges that we are facing. Also on the capacity building part, we have spoken. Also on the technology enablement that we need to do. Also, we spoke about the viable funding gap which is needed, the kind of data that we need to have in advance in order to have the proper buying of carbon zero products so that it could have a lasting impact. And also, sir, added some very important perspective from environment perspective, and as to how the state of Rajasthan is taking very important role in terms of educating, in terms of approving in a timeline manner some of the important project. So thank you so much for being such a wonderful panelist. Thank you.